Everybody, my name is Daniel Scarborough, and for my ECE 3005 final presentation and project, I decided to write an instructional guide to the Okefenokee Swamp. The Okefenokee Swamp is very dear to my heart. It's located in more southeastern Georgia, and I actually got to visit it for the first time in a class trip back in the sixth grade, and I kind of fell in love with it. It's a very cool place, one of my favorite places to visit in the state. They got super cool things like hiking, canoeing. There's so much amazing wildlife. But when talking to some of my friends at Georgia Tech, I discovered that a lot of my friends, especially some of my friends from out of state, had never heard of the swamp, and even some of my friends who lived in Georgia their whole life, didn't really know a whole lot about it. And so I decided to make a little instructional guide and a PowerPoint presentation in order to inform students about the various wildlife in the swamp, the various animals, plants, and its overall importance to the Georgia ecosystem, and also ways that we as Georgia Tech students can help conserve the swamp and help preserve it for future generations. So, diving right in, welcome to the swamp. It's a crucial part of Georgia's ecosystem. It's actually over 700 miles wide, and it's considered one of Georgia's 7 natural wonders. It's only a couple of hours from Georgia Tech, so if you're looking to make a day trip or a cool weekend destination, it's an awesome place to visit. So first off, I'd like to start by informing about some of the different animals that live in the swamp. Probably one of the most famous and kind of the unofficial mascot of the Okefenokee is the American alligator. There are estimated to be 10 to 13,000 alligators living in the Okefenokee today. Alligators have been swimming in the Okefenokee since the Cretaceous period, Mesozoic times. Unfortunately, the alligators that exist in there today are a lot smaller than their prehistoric counterparts, but they can still grow to be quite large. Two of the more famous alligators that lived in the swamp are Oscar. Oscar lived to be 100 years old. He actually passed away back in 2007, but at the time of his death, he was 13 and a half feet long and around 1,000 pounds, half a ton. A very large alligator. Sue is now believed to be the oldest living alligator in the swamp, at being about 60 to 80 years old. And the alligators of the Okefenokee, that might seem to be a little scary, but they're actually they're very cool, cool animals to observe. They're not aggressive, not nearly as aggressive as an alligator you would find out in the wild, probably due to the large amount of people that visit. When I visited back in the sixth grade, that's actually when I took this picture, right from my canoe, which the alligator was only about 2 or 3 feet away. None of the alligators ever really got aggressive for any of us, and if they're not going to get aggressive on a bunch of sixth graders doing grader things, paddling around down the swamp and doing who knows what else, then they're probably not going to get aggressive for anybody. In fact, there's an urban legend where somebody actually sat on top of Oscar thinking he was a fake alligator that they had set up beside the gift shop. No, it was a real alligator. He was out there sunbathing. I never got to see the picture that resulted from that, but I know that nobody got hurt, so I think it's relatively safe. I think it's safe to say you'll be safe around the alligators. They're just really cool animals to see in their natural habitat. Aside from alligators, there are many other reptiles. Up in Figure 3, you can see the cottonmouth snake, also known as the water moccasin, named the cottonmouth due to its stark white mouth against its camouflage bandings. I've never seen a venomous snake when I'm in the swamp. Mostly I just see rat and water snakes. If I see a snake at all, they're kind of hard to spot. But the non-venomous kinds are definitely more common than the venomous counterparts. So again, I wouldn't be too concerned. Just exercise caution if you're hiking or anything like that. Figure 4 shows actually a heron. I believe that's a blue heron, also known as an old man. You can't really see it in that picture super well, but they actually have beards that dip down, and they're very cool birds, very majestic. You can also see ducks and many other migrating birds. Birds will stop off in the Okefenokee as they're flying north or south for the winter or summer, whatever season they're trying to escape. And so you can often see many different kinds of species. So also many kinds of fish species. In Figure 5, you can see different kinds of gar, which almost resemble alligators with their large bills. There's also multiple kinds of catfish, named catfish because they actually have little whiskers, which are actually feelers that they use to help navigate. And there's also different kinds of mammals. Figure 6 shows a beaver dam. Beavers are probably one of the best engineers in Georgia that are not Georgia Tech graduates. I'm just kidding. But they are really cool engineers. They build their huts and homes out of various sticks and mud and rocks. Incredible structures. You can see them throughout the swamp. There's also multiple kinds of deer, most commonly the white-tailed deer, named as, you can probably guess why. They have little white specks on their tail, and all sorts of different wildlife, including various forms of plant life like Spanish moss hanging from the trees. That's just really cool to see. And aside from the various plants and animals, the Okefenokee is very important to Georgia's overall ecosystem. It's actually the base, what they call the headwater, meaning it's the source for the St. Mary's River, which heads east and empties out into the Atlantic, and the Swanee River, which flows south and empties into the Gulf of Mexico, filling countless streams and rivers that come off of those two big ones. And so it's very important that the Okefenokee remains clean, or else the effects on the ecosystem could be catastrophic. Unfortunately, there are lots of ways that you can help the swamp. One of the best ways to help the swamp is honestly just to drive on down and take a visit. There's a small fee to get into the park. I don't believe it's any more than $5 for a day pass, and you can do all sorts of really cool stuff. You can go canoeing, you can go hiking, you can tour some different buildings that they have, buildings that have been there. I'm not sure if they're original or if they've been reconstructed, but they kind of represent what life was like in Georgia back when it was first founded, and it's really cool. It's an awesome tour, great place to visit, and I know I've had a blast on the various trails. You can also make independent cash donations if you want to take a more proactive role in helping the park. If you actually want to volunteer, there are multiple organizations that you can volunteer with. There's Friends of Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites, Environment Georgia, Swanee Riverkeeper. You can also volunteer to help the park by being a national wildlife refugee volunteer, and you can partake in numerous activities. You can help with public relations, always looking for people to man the gates and front desks. Any engineers, especially the Georgia Tech, if you want to gain experience, maybe if you're a civil engineer, then you can help with various maintenance projects they have. If you're an electrical engineer, you can help with any lighting they might be having, any lighting problems they might be having. If you're an environmental engineer, environmental engineering honestly probably has the most opportunities out of anybody, because even just walking around the park and observing the wildlife can just be a really cool experience. So if you're ever not busy during the summer and you're interested in doing some volunteer work, it's a really cool place to go. You definitely don't have to spend the whole summer there. You can just go for a weekend or even just a day, or just visiting or showing your support. And you can have a very big impact on the swamp and help preserve a key part of Georgia's ecosystem for future generations. And all right, I don't have near much time in a 10-minute presentation to dive into all the various things that make the Okefenokee special. It's just a very awesome place that provides a refuge for a wide variety of life. It's also very important to Georgia's waterways as a whole, and there are lots of ways that we at Georgia Tech students can open and go and visit it. I'd encourage you to go out and take a weekend trip with your friends. It's a really cool experience, and I don't think that you'll regret it. So thank you very much. And if we're in distance learning right now, but if anybody is interested, if you visit these links on the PowerPoint, they have all sorts of different ways that you can help provide further resources that you can look at and learn even more about the swamp. And I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you for your time.